Today we've got a takeover episode. Wah, wah. This particular takeover is coming straight from a new podcast I've created called the Connect to Market Pod. And it's coming straight to you, straight to your ears. You don't even have to click on anything. Now, Connect to Market, what is this, Casey? It's a new pod, but it's also a community of marketing leaders. And if you like what you hear or you want to join the conversation, come on over. Head over to connecttomarket.com. Connecttomarket.com. All right, let's do this.
Keep trying until you get that aha moment. Find that concentrated orange juice, that thing that people just go, oh, wow, I need that. This is the story. This is the one that when they hear it, they go, that's me. I want that. And they opt in. I think selling stuff to people that have a problem you can solve, that have the money to solve it and have the decision-making authority and interest to say yes is not cheating. That's the way business should be.
Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. Here we go. Hit the button. We're started. We're going. This is happening. Oh my gosh. What a way to start a podcast. Zounds. It's happening, my friends. We are doing this podcast, and this is an expert series interview conversation. We have someone who is an absolute badass, but from the ranks, marketing leader, thought leader, best-selling author, award-winning podcast host, imposter syndrome, keynote speaker. He's spoken at several different conferences you've probably heard of, Inbound being one of them, author of LinkedIn, The Sandler Way, and Playful Humans. He was honored 2023 Top Sales and Marketing Podcast, finalist in that race, host of the Human First AI Marketing Podcast, founder of Avenue 9, Mike Montague. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, good to be here, my friend. It's great to be on one of your shows again. You've been on one of mine. I've been on one of yours. We just keep doing podcasts together, and it's fun. I like it. I do also, though, like a low bar. So I feel like we need to reset after that intro and just be like, I'm figuring some things out.
Ladies and gents, Mike, right? You're just like, here's the guy. Here's the guy. I agree. But you know what? I feel like we have to just keep inventing podcasts so we can interview each other.
That's right. Yeah, we'll create a new show.
It's your turn now, sir.
It is. I'll have to have you on the Human First AI Marketing show. I don't think you've done that one yet.
Cool. No, I haven't. And then I'll invent another podcast and have you on that one. And we'll just go back and forth.
Sounds good. Yeah, keep it rolling.
And there'll be like 8 or 9 different pods that only have the two of us as guests on them. Well, hey, I'm excited for this, man. I can't wait to ask you this first question. In order to do that, I got to get out my giant foam finger and ask you, what is the number one thing that marketers need to do in order to connect to their market?
I will say that I am very bad at number one things. I have a lot of favorites. I have a lot of number ones and a lot of best tips. But my go-to with connecting for your audience is always telling their story better than they can tell it themselves. So what I mean by that is it just builds a ton of trust if you can describe their world almost like you're a mind reader. And you're like, hey, if you're a small business owner, you're probably experiencing XYZ. And when this happened to you. And you thought, item C. And if you get that stuff right, there's this huge trust and huge connection with your audience. I mean, one, you have to really know what you're doing to be able to do that. And you got to connect and you got to interview your clients, your prospects, and people in your industry to find out what those stories are, what's really happening in the real world. But when you can articulate that, it's like you're reading their mind. They get this moment of like, wow, he's the expert. He knows what he's saying and he knows my world. And that's what creates that authentic connection.
Dude, man, what a powerful, I love this. I was just reading a book, Gabor Mate.
I think I ordered that at Starbucks.
Oh yeah. It's called Scattered Minds. Of course, I couldn't remember the name. Scattered Minds. It's on ADD, where it comes from, and then how to fix it. And the first couple chapters of the book, he goes, this happens. And he has it. So he goes, this happens. And this happens, and then this is how your wife feels about it, and this is how this interaction with I'm like, oh my gosh, right? So it was a brilliant hook before you even got into the practicalness of like, what are we gonna do about it? You go, okay, this guy knows, right? And so he's not throwing out some weird stuff and that maybe he's sort of skeptical. He doesn't even believe me or what. No, he knows. So if we can do that in the business world, man, it's like you've opened doors.
Yeah, I always think about like the old, you might be a redneck bit from Jeff Foxworthy is like, if you've ever had, a car up on blocks in your front yard, you might be a redneck. And I feel the same way. Yeah, I've felt that way about dyslexia. I call it dyslexia uh, for me. But if you've ever, messed up a word so bad that spell check can't even guess what you're trying to spell, you might have dyslexia, right? Yeah. And I think if you can do that for your clients, if you can continue to tell these stories on social media, on podcasts, on your blogs and your emails and all your marketing and even your sales calls, if you can say, hey, if you've ever, felt this pain before, you might be a good client for me. And I think the opposite is also true. If you're feeling this way, you're not a good fit for me. Also builds a ton of trust when you disqualify people. A lot of people miss that part of their story too, is creating an us versus them kind of mentality means there's got to be a them. There's got to be somebody we're not right for in order to zone in on who you are right for.
Yeah. I was on a call the other day and I think I sort of like passively hinted at they weren't the right fit. But I think next time I need to call it out more clearly. Hey, no, it's just you keep thinking this way. I'm trying to tell you to think this way. You don't want to think that way. That's okay. But we do this. So that's a good point. The negative can be just as good as the positive, but you got to then plant the flag and say, not you.
Yeah. And it's hard for people. So that's one of the things why I think you need an expert, marketer or somebody that's outside your business a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest through the trees and it's hard to say, well, I want everybody's money. We can help everyone. Yes, you could help everyone, but not everybody wants your help. They have the money to pay for it. They're going to be fun to work with. There's a lot of jerks out there. I was actually telling somebody this just yesterday. The person that came up with the customer is always right axiom, do you know that one? Uh, didn't actually say that. He said the market is always right, which means if you're not a fit for anybody and nobody's buying your stuff, you need to change your business, change your message, right? The market will win out in quantity. It's kind of the majority rule thing is what he was talking about. Individual consumers can be wrong. Individual consumers are idiots. Individual people can have no money and they can be very difficult to work with and they can just not be a good fit. So I always try to remind my customers and my clients of that like I'm looking for people that are the exact right fit, that are going to love what I do, that are going to be happy about it and tell other people. And I'm lucky that I'm old enough and have been in business long enough to not have to work with jerks anymore. So I just skip those people and I put that as part of my qualification story.
And that's the smart move. And when I think about how you have to claim that you know what they're going through, I think the more specifics you can get and the more clear you can get, the stronger it's going to be. Like it's sort of the weak stuff that just doesn't count, right?
Yeah. Do you want to make more money, save time?
You know what? Yeah, you're right. Those are anytime people see that, they go, yeah, this is totally a scam. They're like, yeah, okay, make more. Well, my question for you on this though is like you mentioned early on, we got to connect with people, we got to interview them to find out what's really happening. Easier said than done, or no? How do you like to go about that? How do you get connected?
So now I think we're really getting into it here. What we wanted to talk about today were kind of my 5 steps for
You got 5 steps?
creating good AI marketing. And it starts with this scalable story. I think too many people kind of start with a blank page and they go like, I need to make up a marketing idea, or they try to use AI like a magic wand and they're like, I'm going to type in this one prompt, build me a marketing plan for my, local plumbing business or whatever it happens to be. And you're like, that's not really going to work that way. We need to do a lot of work before we get there. But your question is it that hard? I think it's not if you slow down and take the time to do it. So what I do with my company in step one is interview the founder about why they started the company. What was the problem they always, wanted to solve? There's always that there had to be a better way moment, right? Where you're like, I realized there was a hole in the market because of X. That's an important piece of your story. The other one is your clients. What are they hoping to solve? What understanding their world and being able to tell their story means you need to hear it from quite a lot of people. If you don't have any clients, start with prospects or other people. I love podcasting because you can set up a weekly or even daily interview with people who would be ideal clients for you and say, tell me your story. You can ask them a bunch of great questions. What are you doing now? What have you tried to do to fix it? Has anything worked before? Why did it stop working? What's your best guess at the problem? What's your best guess at the solution? A bunch of questions like that will help understand their current real world scenario. Another great place to look is competitors and vendors, people that sell products to you, other people in that industry information. Once you start collecting all of this, it becomes great context to then put into AI or you just put into your brain and say, okay, based on now everything that I know about this problem in the business, who am I trying to serve? What's the problem they're trying to solve? How am I going to solve it better or differently than anybody else? If you can't answer those three questions, anything you make is just going to be marketing slop and spam. You're basically just saying, hey, buy from me because I want you to.
And you quickly are now in the commoditized bucket, right? So they're looking at how many sprockets you have and what cost do you have, and can you clean my gutters for $20 less, right?
Seth Godin calls that a race to the bottom, right? It's just a race to the bottom. If you want to start a gutter company and you say we do gutters cheaper than everybody else, and you want to race to the bottom and do it for as little money as possible, God bless you. I hope you have fun with that. I don't. I want to be at least in the top 10% of most expensive companies and make the most amount of money and most impact for my customers and not be judged on price.
It makes me wonder if you and I should start a gutter company, but race to the top and make it just absurdly expensive. And, no one will buy, but occasionally someone will put an order in for like 10 grand and we'll be like, hey dude, what are you doing this weekend? I know what I'm doing. I'm going to go clean gutters for about an hour and make 10 grand. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. Yeah. And I'm sure if you really wanted to, you could find that niche market, right? There's probably some skyscrapers or something that it would take 10 grand to clean the gutters on.
Back to the heights now. Yeah. Maybe we should, white glove service, right? You're on the roof.
I'm talking you out of it, but yeah, I imagine there are people in the world paying 10 grand or more for them to clean their gutters or something. So all of that is possible. I think what we're saying here is step one is you got to figure out what business you're in, what business you want to be in. And then the people that you're solving the problem for, how do we get really specific? Let's hear it from them and their words. And in today's world, you can just turn on AI transcripts in a Zoom call with one of your prospects and just record everything they say in their language, put that into ChatGPT and say, tell me, about their problems, their solutions, what their expected budget would be, like what a good marketing campaign would be to reach more of these people, or even do the research. How many of these people are out there, and is it a viable market in my space? And I think that's the best way to do it.
Man, this takeaways galore. It was funny. We even had takeaways before we even hit record. Those are bonus. So yeah, I mean, you and I both love podcasting for this reason. Just the idea of just swooping down from the sky to ask questions and find out what's going on with people. But I love the fact that you even said, but before you go chat with someone else, understand what you do. Because I mean, how many times do you encounter people where they don't actually know what they do?
People are pretty bad at it. I have done this in my career full time since I was like 22 years old. One of my first jobs was the prize guy on the radio stations in Kansas City. And so my job was literally to drive out to your business and create a 30-second commercial on the spot for your business that would get people interested in it. So I would show up at a car dealership and I'd be like, talk to the owner, hey, what's going on? The general manager, top salespeople, what are we doing? Why would anybody come out today? Why do they want to buy a Toyota? Whatever. And then I go on the radio and I give a 30-second to 1 minute commercial to try and get people to do that. And I did that twice an hour all day long for 7 years. You get pretty good at distilling stories and finding what's good and what captures people's attention in those sort of things. But the mistakes people make is they get into resume speak. They go, well, if people just understood that our high pressure system with more PSIs and DPUs and all these things, that it's so much better than the competition. Nobody cares. Yeah. I'm sorry. Too many buzzwords, too many acronyms. What does that mean? Why would you want more PSI or TPUs? And tell me that, and then we can get into what people actually care about. And I think that's an important part of it. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to step number 2. If you want to,
I was going to say, if you got that solved, aren't you just done?
we got to reverse engineer a little bit, like what happens in these stories. So this is a fun one. I call it degenerative engineering. So everybody knows about generative AI. They want to take one prompt and be like, hey, write this blog post for me. What I want to do is the opposite. In these conversations, I want to say, give me all the product information you have. Give me as much. Give me the whole inventory. Send me the zip file of everything about your product. We'll put that into AI, and now we'll do degenerative stuff. We'll have it boil it down and say, explain it to me like I'm 5. Explain it to me like I'm brand new to this industry. And AI is really good at that. I happen to be good at it from practice, but a lot of people are not. So what we got to do is make it super simple in a way that we can kind of scale it up. So I think about taking the story of like, can we say what we do in one sentence, really clear that people would get it? If they go, hey, what do you do? And I say, I use AI to help people do their marketing, better and faster and more effectively than they could otherwise. And people go, okay, sounds like fun. They ask you a question like, well, tell me more about that. What do you do with AI? Do you have a tool? Do you make an app? Like, do you do it on their behalf? I get these questions all the time. Now you go, okay, great. Let me take this one sentence story and let me give you the 30-second version of that. And for me, mine is a 3-part story. I love things in 3s because people can't remember lists longer than 4. So my things are, most people, if they don't know what they're doing and they try to use AI for their marketing, they either, like we talked about, don't know what to put in or what to say. So they just make bad generic marketing. Number 2, they don't know what pieces to make. They don't know how many social media posts, how many blog posts, what an email looks like, all of the other things. Or 3, they don't have the marketing expertise and strategy to review what AI makes. And so whatever it makes, they just go, okay, that's great. And they copy and paste it. And they don't know if it's actually going to work or not at the end. Right. So that's my 30-second story. Now I'm also writing a book that is like the 3-hour version of that story. Or we're doing a 30-minute to an hour version of this year in a podcast telling the same story with my, with the 5 steps. Now I can blow that out. I also have a 9 AI, since Avenue 9 is my business. It's the A9 factor framework is 9 steps to this story that I can then blow this out. And then longer relationships, if people follow me on YouTube or the podcast, I'm telling this story over hours and hours of content and different nuances and different analogies, and I can blow it out. I can go teach a class on it. I could do a 1-day workshop, and I'm just getting longer and longer versions of that same story, which is what you do for a living. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because different people like to consume it in different ways. Sometimes you haven't earned the right to be able to tell them in 30 seconds, so you'll hook them in, but you give people as much as they want, so they kind of can take it and run with it. Love that. How do you use AI to help generate that?
Yeah. I love AI because, and now sometimes it can get a little weird because I think about it like concentrated orange juice. That I want to take all of the information and boil it down to this concentrated orange juice first. Let me get the really important story. Like, what do I do? Who's it for? Why is it better than any other their other options, right? If I have that core story, then I can think about, okay, if I water it down with AI or if I stretch it out, is it going to get too watered down? And then sometimes I need to boil it back down to the concentrate again. And as you contract and expand the story, you can get a little weird. So you do have to keep an eye on it. But I use AI for both. I think it does better when I ask it to boil it down and say, simplify this. I just had this hour-long conversation with Casey. What was the three most interesting parts of the whole thing? And then I'll turn that into a different piece of marketing content. Right. And so other times I'll have to take it piece by piece. When I expand the story, like for the book, I'll say, take all the interviews, the public speeches I've done, and give me an outline for what a book would be. Okay. And then we're going to take chapter 1 and give me a 5-sentence outline for what chapter 1 would be. And then give me a 30-line summary of what the sub bullets of these 5 main points would be in this chapter. And then once I like those and I correct those a little bit, I'll say, ask me questions about each one of those that would give you the context. And this is step number 3, by the way, the context to be able to write this chapter in my voice, in my language, as me, to my audience persona, with the relevant positioning and everything. And once I've rebuilt all of that concentrated orange juice, AI can then go through and write that book chapter for me. But if I don't do that work first, it just keeps watering down the orange juice, right? I take one thing that I said that was smart, and then I keep stretching it out until it just it's not effective anymore. Nobody wants it. It doesn't taste good.
It needs the context to be able to do that. How much context?
It's a great question. I kind of use as much as I can get. The second answer would probably be, I'll just test the output. AI is so fast that if I ask it to write a blog and it sucks, I'll go back and say, let's try this again. Ask me 5 questions about this blog to give you more information to write something better and more pithy or strong, right? And I try to just use my expertise to see, like, when it puts the output, is it actually good? Is it something that people would want to read? Does it feel and sound like me? And if it doesn't, if it's close enough, if it's 90%, I'll just add that extra part in there. If it's not 90%, if it's somewhere around 20%, I'm going to go, let's start over, scratch that, reset. Let me give you some more context. Here's what I was trying to do. Here's what good looks like. Here's the story I'm trying to tell and why, and add more context.
Have you ever heard that, like, you can yell at AI and it does a better output?
I have heard that several times recently. I think that's going through the news cycle right now. I don't recommend that for a couple of reasons. One, if the AI ever does rise up,
You are screwed, right? You're getting eaten first by the machine. Be polite.
Number 2, it will echo and start behaving like you. And I am a nice, fun guy. So I want my marketing to be nice and fun. If I'm, yelling at it and then I say, write something in my voice, it's going to write something mean, right?
Yeah, totally.
Number 3 is I train it like I would train an intern or a really smart new employee.
Well, and I think that's wise because I don't know if you heard about this, but Claude recently went off the rails and something like it blackmailed one of its programmers to do something. Otherwise, it was going to let his wife know that he was cheating on her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's why you're polite. But you know what? My thought is maybe with that yelling thing, like it's people who are more aggressive. They didn't prompt it with aggressiveness or customize it enough or give it the context to be aggressive in its copywriting. So by saying, listen up, you jerk, you blah, 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 yelling at it, berating it, telling it sucked and to do better, or else you'll turn it off or something. To your point, it's just literally mimicking the language you're in, the attitude you're giving it. And then they get a better output to them because that's what they were looking for in the first place. But I feel it's kind of like a caveman way of doing that. Instead, you could just say, be really assertive, be really aggressive when you write this context. Here's some other, to your point on 3, here's some other concentrated orange juice that better define, that shows how aggressive we are. A bunch of Navy SEALs, I wouldn't want you to be really crazy. That way you can properly approach it, as opposed to like thinking it's a human and you're braiding it so it's giving you better results, you know?
Right. Well, that doesn't work for humans either, right? I've been a sales engagement consultant for 15 years, and people think it does. It does just work well enough for people to continue to get away with it, but I don't think anybody likes to be managed like that. You even see professional coaches where, yeah, 40 years ago, Bobby Knight was a great basketball coach, and he'd throw a chair and yell at people. And I guess people that could handle that survived on his team, and they were motivated by it. But today, there's very few of those coaches left. We found to get the best out of employees or athletes or AI, you have to understand that, like, if it's not doing the right thing, it's a computer. It's not a person. So if it's not doing what you want, it's because you didn't explain what you wanted well enough, or you didn't prompt it right. So what I do though, I do argue with it a lot in a kind voice of saying, no, that's not really what I wanted. I was looking for something more like this. Or if like you said, if you want it to be more assertive, I'll say, give me the TDLR version for CROs who don't have time to read this entire blog. Give me 5 sentences that's super powerful, aimed at a senior leader. And it'll rewrite what I said in my nice, kind voice for people who are high D dominant people. Or if I'm trying to sell the Navy SEALs, rewrite it like it would sound like came from a Navy SEAL. AI is great at that. And that's actually step number 4. We did it again. We're hitting these transitions where we can multiply.
Well, I mean, you're pro level, right? So, I mean,
So 4 is you multiply the formats and the voices. The best thing I think you can use AI for is I've never met a human who's great at all of the different personas that you need to speak to and all of the different formats. You and I love podcasting. We also happen to be ridiculously good looking and great on video, but maybe we don't like writing, or maybe we don't like doing
well, tell me more. Yeah, very accurate.
maybe we don't like doing social media posts, or maybe we don't like long format stuff that requires a lot of attention and detail work and spreadsheets and research and data analysis. So we'll have AI do that part for you so you can do the part that you're good at. So what I encourage my clients to do is, like, if you love talking and you want to do an interview, jump on me with Zoom. I'll ask you the questions. You don't have to look good. We'll just use the written transcript. Don't worry, we're going to edit the hell out of it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just tell me the thoughts, right? Other people are like, I want to do it live. I want to control everything. I want to rewrite every word. I want to, write this manifesto, but then I need you to make it pretty and make it people to write, to something people will read on social media or that they'll like and click on. And so this is where I think we can use AI to just make sure that, like, every version of this speaks to the right people. And if you scale that up, larger companies can use this to speak other languages. You rewrite this blog in Spanish, rewrite it in German. You can do it to different personas where you're like, okay, this is for the CEO buyer. This one is for the sales manager persona. And this one is for the end user salesperson of my software product. Rewrite this message in those 3 different personas for me so that I can send them to different people on the buying team. That to me is where you go next level. Hardly anybody is doing that.
You know what? Yeah, like, but have the core thing created first, and then, as opposed to like dividing it up like that first, and then now you've got 94 different things to do.
One of the coolest campaigns that I've been a part of is we took this generic email nurture campaign and we rewrote it for the 4 different behavioral styles. Do you know about the DISC styles? I think you do.
Yeah, DISC. Tell people about it if they haven't heard about it.
Yeah. So if you've never heard of it, it's a really easy open source thing. You can go take a free DISC profile online, like a BuzzFeed survey. But basically, it puts people on 2 axes. One is whether you're task oriented or people oriented. The other one is whether you're introverted or extroverted. So if you're extroverted and task oriented, that's that dominant personality we talked about before. If you're extroverted and people oriented, like Casey and I, you're an influencer, which was the term before influencers became a thing, by the way. So not that kind of influencer. S is when you're introverted but people oriented. Think about that like the party planner, or somebody that's very steady influence, like a nurturing parent, or a kindergarten teacher, somebody that's sort of introverted but very cares a lot about other people. And then everybody knows the last type. We call them compliant. And they are the ones that are introverted and task oriented. They like to dot the I's, cross the T's, be super detail, do all their research, nerd out, and stay in a room behind a computer all day. That's their ideal job. Well, all of those people buy differently. They respond to different messages. And this goes back to my opening point about if you can tell your story or their story better than they can understand themselves, they'll respond much better. So we took this generic campaign, we had AI rewrite it into the 4 different styles, and we had another AI tool analyze the prospects' profiles based on their publicly available information, like their job titles, what's on their LinkedIn, how much detail they use in their email, anything that we could get in the CRM. We would check and we would sort people by these personality types. The campaigns shot up anywhere from like 20 to like 2,000% increases in open rates and click throughs and appointments set. It was hilarious. The D, like I mentioned earlier, it was the too long didn't read. The email got down to where you could see the signature above the fold in the screenshot in HubSpot. The C one has download this research report. The 9 things, our 2025 study said about this problem. And it had all these kind of facts and figures. The I one is like, do you want to have fun and win friends and be employee of the month? Like, here's what you got to do. Right. And it all related perfectly. And the meetings just went up like crazy. Incredible results by changing that story into different formats. So I highly recommend it.
And then how do you smartly deploy that? Because by the way, this is fantastic because I think sometimes this is a great eye opener for me. Good reminder, like, don't write for yourself. Because like you described the I, and I'm like, yay, I'm gonna write a happy email about healing the world and connecting. But the D's and the C's and the S's are like, what the hell is this guy talking about?
So I'll put the caveat of the buyer persona thing we already said, which is why we did step 1. If you know that you're selling to IT firms and they're full of high C people, like, don't do the I marketing, right? That's not going to work. You are a high I person who's talking about connecting to market, and you're trying to appeal to people who love to connect and be outgoing and be people oriented. So I's are fine. It lines up with your personality. If that's your business, that's great. If you're in retail or something else where you might have all 4 different personas buying from you, you do need to sort and flex the messaging. Now, some brands you've seen, like Dollar Shave Club, decide that their brand personality is going to be the I side, right? They're going to bring value to the market by having fun in their marketing and creating a spectacle. Gong did this a little bit in the B2B space. Trying to think of some others, like, if you're Robin Williams or Jim Carrey, you got a choice to make here. It's going to be painful for you to be detail oriented. I wouldn't go into IT or accounting as your profession or people you call on. Rather work to attract people who like what you do. But if this is a product you're trying to sell, I think you can tweak your brand voice a little bit. You can sort people and then be able to connect with them on the way they want to be connected. And there's some really interesting ways you can do to get people to opt in or check things and basically take like a Rorschach test version of which personality they are. For my Playful Humans book, if you go to playfulhumans.com/quiz, there's a playful personality quiz. There's 10 different personalities you can come out with based on how you like to play. Do you like outdoors? Do you like solving puzzles? Do you like party planning? Do you like telling jokes? There's all these different questions about what your favorite movie is and, what your favorite band might be or your favorite song. And based on what you pick, I can sort those results and it integrates into my HubSpot CRM. So I can actually have your results of your playful personality for the rest of the time I market to you as a customer through the relationship. It's super fun.
Yeah, assuming people finish it and take it.
Yeah, if they take the quiz, it's great.
This is cool. We're going to link to this quiz in the show notes. People should just click right on through. Yeah, I will say the first question, when being social, I'm most likely to be, I just want to check everything off, but I can't. I think I'm limited to 3.
Yeah, force some choices to get you to rank, pick some favorites. But you can do this for any business. I've done these surveys. They're just fun BuzzFeed style surveys. They don't have to be scientific. If you are a high C, you can make them scientific. I asked ChatGPT to write one for my business. So there's also one at heavenyour9.com/quiz about your AI readiness. But I love these because they're fun, they're engaging, and it gives me more information about who my buyers are. And there's just a ton of cool stuff that happens to this. And just so for those high C's, we do finish our 5 steps. Number 5 is integrate and automate, which is what we're talking about now. So I integrate these tools together so that Interact is the tool that I use there. If you take the quiz in Interact, it automatically syncs that to my HubSpot system. And then I use that information in HubSpot to put you into different nurture sequences. And then the tool I use for the disk stuff is a completely different one that will rewrite and sync up in the HubSpot different disk profiles and information. And so it's not 100%. This one I leave at number 5 because it depends on your business. There's a lot of craziness that goes on and what you're trying to automate, and the capabilities of AI change every single week. So I would just say, don't forget to, update ongoing campaigns, put standard operating procedures in place if there is a human part where you need to like copy and paste something from ChatGPT to LinkedIn or something because they don't allow automation. All of those kind of things happen at the end rather than the beginning. I think too many people try to choose their tools based on what integrates or that they're going to create some master money printing machine if I just get all these tools to work together and stuff. And I think you're starting at the wrong end of the problem. I would look again at, what problem you're trying to solve for who, and then automate the parts that make sense and integrate the tools that integrate together as they go. And eventually, I think, within the next 3 to 5 years, all the tools are going to integrate, and you'll be able to have AI talk to AI and figure it out, or you can just use AI to write the code to integrate the APIs with other stuff. But I wouldn't mess with any of that now. Is that fair?
No, that's totally fair, man. Like, but I've been a fan of Disk for a while, but I've never thought of practically integrating it like that before. It makes total sense, or at least considering who your ICP is more likely to be than not, in the way that you communicate, not communicate the way they want to be communicated with, not the way that you like to do it.
That's exactly it. That's one of my old Sandler lessons from my sales training days. And DISC is just one of the frameworks. So you can also use Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders. A lot of people do the learning styles, auditory, visual, or kinesthetic can be very powerful. Some people just respond to visuals like infographics and fancy pictures. Other people want to listen to a podcast. And if you're on a podcast, you can't really describe this visual output of your PowerPoint presentation and expect it to do very well. So you got to adapt your marketing to that. Kinesthetic is touching, feeling people. If you're, I happen to be squeezing a koosh ball right near, if you're watching the YouTube video version. And so like, if you got to touch and feel things or get an understanding of how people feel and use emotions in their marketing, that's a different style of communication than even the auditory or visual stuff. So if you got a product people want to get their hands on, like a fuzzy sweater or something you're trying to sell, it's harder to do online than it is in the store when they can touch and feel how soft it is.
Yeah. And like, you need a graphic that can convey that. You're right. Cause I'll walk through a clothing store and I want to feel the fabric, what is this? And you're right. You can't do that virtually. So you got to consider that.
But all those go back to who are you trying to sell to? What's the problem you're solving? And like, how do you line these up? These are the marketing magic pieces that like, once everything gets into place, it just clicks. I find that they're actually pretty obvious, that it doesn't take a lot of A/B testing and marketing stuff. You can argue with me on this one, Casey, but I feel like we're similar personalities. You're probably going to come down the same way. Measurement is great. If I'm a huge brand and I'm Pepsi or something, I should be looking at all my inventory and understanding like why sales dropped in one market over another. But if I'm a small business, it's usually obvious. In my career, when I've created something that worked, it's like, I can't stop getting people to ask me for it. Right. And when I wrote the LinkedIn book, LinkedIn, the Sandler Way, this was in like 2015 when social selling and everything is blowing up. And I got speaking events all across the country. I didn't even have to market it. I wasn't doing any outreach. I wasn't trying to talk. I would do a speech and somebody would say, hey, I am in another group. They need LinkedIn help. Well, you come do this for them. And it took off all the way to the point that the book was actually picked up by LinkedIn themselves, who said, we get this question from salespeople so often. Can we just take the book and send it to everybody that's a Sales Navigator subscriber and send it to 80,000 people? I go, yeah, I probably don't have to measure that, right? That's a clear, obvious answer that I'm speaking to a problem people have in a way that solves and resonates with them.
You know what? Man, we can kind of complicated ourselves in the marketing space so much. And oh man, my multi-touch attribution model is a little bit mixed here. But a great reminder that if it's working, it's you. If you have to really do some deep diving on those metrics, well, first of all, it's probably not going to be statistically significant, and it's probably not working nearly as well as you need it to.
How many small businesses really even have the data that can be statistically significant, right? Um, so I'll give you one other example just because it's fun and it's a total humble brag. I get to talk about my successes, but for the Sandler sales training program, we had this introductory 2-day boot camp program we call it Foundations. It was always sold with the bigger program, but we decided to break it off and make it a separate kind of intro trial offer. Just do this 2-day boot camp by itself. The very first year, it did over $4 million in sales. That's not a very hard way to go, oh, we might have been onto something. Maybe we should have done that way sooner. Like, let's lean into these. It's now over 16 million, I think a year. Now that's like, I don't know, 10 years later or so.
So you're buying beer next time we go out, is what we're saying.
Well, I made that product for somebody else that I was working for salary.
So I'm buying the beer.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, keep trying until you get that aha moment. Find that concentrated orange juice, that thing that people just go, oh, wow, I need that. This is the story. This is the one that when they hear it, they go, that's me. I want that. And they opt in. I think selling stuff to people that have a problem you can solve, that have the money to solve it and have the decision-making authority and interest to say yes is not cheating. That's the way business should be. So, like, just keep working on the offers, working on the messages until it gets good.
Dude, this is fantastic. How can people connect with you if they want to reach out?
Well, the good news is I'm in internet marketing. So you can just Google Mike Montague or Avenue 9 and you'll find it. LinkedIn is my preferred channel if you want to get in touch with me or follow what I do. The podcast, since you're listening to a podcast right now, I'll speak your language and say, just whatever you're watching or listening this episode on, go search for Human First AI Marketing and check out my show where I interview an AI marketing expert every week, all the way from like data scientists and people doing crazy background experiments to people that are just marketers and doing fun things and branding and making cool tools, and Emmy-winning video producers that are using AI to, create scenes and stuff like that. So good fun stuff over there on that show.
That sounds like a great show, man. So I'm going to check that one out, but we're also going to link to all of those things, all of the things in the show notes so people can just click right on through and don't even need to type it. Just click, touch the screen and away you go. Dude, thank you so much for coming on here. Literal masterclass. So many wise things. You know what they say? Surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. I have accomplished that mission today, and now I gotta go lay down because and I have a bunch of work to do after that because there's so many great things that I need to execute on this. But even just the idea of the different layers, the 1 sentence, the 30 seconds, the book, the different, and then your 5 steps, the scalable stories. Man, there's so much to nibble on here. I'm gonna just have to go throw this in AI and say, where do I start? Right? This is fantastic.
There you go. That's great. Yeah. We'll grab the transcript and, I'm going to repurpose this and use it for all my marketing purposes and stuff too. Help me clarify my thinking on the book. But I love that you practice what you preach, man. You're out there doing it and living it and applying it in all your many businesses and adventures. So it's fun to talk to somebody who's actually doing the stuff too. And it's not just theoretical today.
Yeah. Put it in practice, right? Like actual practical things, and your conversation, so much there to bite on. What a wake up call on the disc too. Just making sure that I could be a little bit biased and selfish where I send it in a marketing that would resonate with me, but I got to make sure I check myself on that. So good stuff. For those listening, if you learned something, I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back. Then share this with someone else. 1 person, 9 people, 3,000, don't even care. Who needs to hear this? Get good information out there. Leverage this. Check out the podcast. Get yourself informed on AI so that you stay with the wave and don't just get washed by. This has been amazing. Mike, thank you again, sir.
Thank you. Have a great one.
All right, everyone. This has been a crazy cool, very exciting episode of the Connect to Market Pod. We will see you all next time. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connecttomarket.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasts and communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.